And we're here for another episode. We are going to be doing something a little bit different. We have been doing this Combat Patrol 2 Crusade for the last couple episodes. And you know what? Today is October 30th. I'm a huge fan of Halloween. So I thought instead of doing the same old usual stuff, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to address the scariest factions in 40K. And I asked a bunch of people just to get their idea what they thought were some of the scarier factions in 40K. And of course, these are the ones that I came up with. Other people had some strong opinions, and I'll get into that as we go along. But just in general, these are the ones that I'm going over. There are 8 of them. So not all of them are what you expect they would be. So let's just get right into it. For number 8 is one that I think is quite the, shall we say, the Evil Dead experience on a different level. And what I thought, the biggest thing that I thought was Necrons. Necrons always have that, that quintessential horror zombie feel to them, with the addition of they are living metal. So what, like in this picture here, I'm just going to show a general picture. This is some of the Necron warriors, and they're always shown in this eerie green light. So that makes them especially kind of scary looking. And like I said, like you eliminate these guys, they come back to get you, to shoot again, to live again. They reform almost in that, zombie-esque feel. And of course, one of the scariest units that are out there, other than the fact that, they have literal gods at their command, of course, is the flayed ones. And these guys are so ghoulish and looking for that flesh connection again. They want to be flesh again, that they actually remove the skin from their flayed enemies and wear it almost like they're trying to become human again. And there's just something incredibly, inherently spooky or creepy about that. So they are my number 8 spot. And again, this is open to interpretation. If you want to jump in here and give me your opinion on what you think are some of the scariest or creepiest Warhammer 40K factions, there's still 7 to go. Before I move on to the next one, I did want to mention that just this past week, on Lake Clan Legends, we did do a Warhammer 40K fight. And if you want to see that, you can go to their YouTube channel. It's like Clan Legends on YouTube. We did have a fight against Dark Angels, against Chaos Space Marines, right around 1,000 points. It is worth watching if it's something that you want to look into. If you like watching battle reports, it's very raw. We don't cut anything out. We stream it live. So eventually we'll get to the point where we're editing and making everything look pretty. But to be honest with you, just trying to get my boys to know all the rules and everything that's going on is right now is our top priority. So, and to get a video out there for you guys to tell us, hey, what do you like? What do you not like? And go from there. So for number 7, of course, as a good lead into that, is the Chaos Space Marines. Now, Chaos Space Marines, of course, if you've ever seen Chaos Space Marines, they are the evil versions of the good guys, but from their skin masks on their faces, their flayed banners, their skeletons, which are also on some of the Imperial units, to be honest. They are some of the scarier looking guys. Skip the And of course, this is some Chaos Space Marines here. You have your Chaos Lord, you have a Hellbrute in the background, and of course, those Dreadclaw Dreadnoughts. I think they're Dreadclaws, right? Dreadnoughts falling from the sky, and they're going to come around and just destroy everything that they do. To me, uh, they have that just specifically evil outlook. I don't know that they're necessarily scary or creepy. I mean, the only thing that really does stand out for me is, of course, like the demon engines. That those demons that are forced to live inside of a metal machine, a box of prison cell for that demon that they'll never get out of. I do think that that is, that in itself, those units are just kind of scary. I mean, they are the mutated, possessed humans and superhumans, and that's why they got the 7th spot for the scariest faction in 40K. Now, the only offshoot to that is, of course, once we got past the Chaos Space Marines, of course, there are 4 separate factions, individual factions. But as far as I'm concerned, like the Khorne, they just run up and murder stuff. Uh, there's no real creep factor to them, other than they're usually covered in blood. It's more like a gore factor, if you will. But they're really not even that gory. They're just red Space Marines with red blood on their armors. Like I said, they're not super scary. The ones for me, the only, and of course, the Thousand Suns, they are the ghosts in the machine. Ghost being very, 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 literal. And the the World Eaters, or I'm sorry, not the World Eaters, the Emperor's Children. They are just, to me, they're just Chaos Space Marines. They do, obviously they have a different take on a couple of things, but there's nothing really that really just pushes them into that scary or creep factor for me. Now, the ones that I did include, of course, are Death Guard, because they have literal zombies as part of their faction. And to be honest with you, if you get into the lore of the Poxwalker, it's actually much worse than being a zombie. You don't really want to become a Poxwalker. Poxwalkers. So when you get the pox plague from an infected, you eventually become a Poxwalker. If for some reason you live long enough to be completely consumed by the Poxwalker plague, you actually become a plague bearer, which is you just literally become a demon for Nurgle. There's no real progression to it. You just, one day, you go from this terrible thing, this zombie-esque creature, into a demon of disease. But of course, not only do they have the Poxwalkers, the other thing that we are looking at is, of course, the Death Guard themselves. And of course, between the flesh that hangs out of their Hellbrutes and the guts that are hanging out of the bottom of the Death Guard's armor, they are most certainly, the gore factor from the 80s and 90s horror movies. They are just the literal evisceration, bloated stuff hanging out of your body kind of horror that nobody really wants to deal with. So, and of course, if you can't, that's not enough for you, there's also the bugs, the flies and the worms and the nurglings and stuff like that. So to me, Death Guard, definitely higher rated than the Chaos Space Marines, and of course, just creepier than the zombie robots of the Necrons. So after that, the one after that I did want to mention is the regular Chaos Demons. Now, of course, Chaos Demons are another one of those you're going to understand when you understand. There's nothing particularly foul or terrible about them, but the fact that they are literal interpretations of your greatest fears or desires from the warp. And they come in, of course, all the worst type of forms that you can think of, from those unspeakable horrors such as like the Lord of Change, or in this picture, the Kairos Fate Weaver. It's the similarities between that and a Rock from Dungeons and Dragons, or some other bird-headed demon, variably a vulture, that can cast magic. I mean, that's kind of scary in itself. And then, of course, the Tzeentchian demons to me are just the creepiest. And I have to say, just unfortunately, the models don't do the justice that the lore does. The lore in the I keep saying Thousand Suns. I'm sorry. The Tzeentchian demons, the lore in the Tzeentchian demons, of course, is this terrible, unspeakable horrors, the writhing masses of demons. I mean, and to be honest with you, these guys should be much, much scarier than they are in a model form. But look, we got what we got, and that's, you can't really get upset about it. I mean, these guys are still creepy. They're just blobs, literally blobs of warp energy cascaded into and melded into creatures of your worst nightmares. And just for dumb scariness, some of them have beaks and knives and daggers and whatever. And the worst part is, when you kill one of them, either in the lore or on the tabletop, they split in two. One splits into two blue horrors, and then a blue horror splits into two brimstone horrors, which are the little fire guys in the front. I mean, what is scarier than that? I mean, between that and the plague bearers that I spoke about just a few minutes ago, just being that ultimate scary type of entity that once was a person and is now a lesser demon that just spreads disease wherever it goes, to just the wrathful blades of the Khorne bloodletters and bloodthirsters. They are just the things of horror. And of course, when you get into the special characters on top of that, it's even worse. So yeah, so that, of course, is my number 5 pick. Those Chaos Demons. Oh Lord, are they scary? So from there, we're going to go in a completely different direction. And this is, when I get into some of this is more some of the thoughtful kind of horror, the psychological terror, or thought patterns behind what people will do in a life that is not their own, or that is their own in some way. The next for me, of course, when we're done with these demons, is the Admech. And of course, the Admech, they're literally people. Again, this is one of those things where it's just a person that has decided that in order to do their job better, in order to do what they do better, they just mutilate their own flesh. They add tentacles mechanical tentacles, mechanotendrites. They add different kind of um, claws or whips or power outlets or extension cords or whatever the heck they use um, to alter themselves so that they can live longer, so they can work better, so they can, you know, do the things that they do. Correct, Jeff. The flesh is weak. I mean, just think about what you would do for this machine god that you follow to be that messed up, to be like, oh, I'm just going to remove my arm and replace it with a socket wrench. I mean, it, they don't really do evil things, but just the psychological terror that gets involved when you actually see um, the admech as a person, as a being. It's really really kind of scary when when you think about it. And I mean, they don't even understand the fact that they're doing this for the machine god, and they don't even know who this thing is. I mean, it could be just a different embodiment of the emperor himself. It could be the void dragon that lives inside of the planet. Who knows? Who knows? Hopefully we'll never figure out that thing. Hopefully they don't tell us, because that's one of those good mysteries to keep on hand. So after the AdMech, of course, while we're talking about other factions that will really just do unspeakable things in the name of their god, um, the next one that I have, of course, is the Gene Stealer cult. The Gene Stealer cult is just normal people, um, and they go out and they believe, they're told by, well, first of all, they're seeded by a gene stealer. I won't even get into that process. Well, actually, let's get into that process. So a gene stealer finds itself onto a human world. As it goes onto the human world, it finds somebody to, let's say, impregnate. And in impregnate, I don't mean in the nice, when a boy gene stealer and a girl gene stealer find each other and fall in love. I mean, they literally go up and lock lips with you and use their oviposter to impregnate you in your belly, almost like the face hugger from Aliens, to put that monster in your belly. And instead of, like in the Alien movie, you don't have that chest burster that comes out, right? In Aliens, the chest burster comes out of your stomach and runs around and then gets bigger, and then that's the horror involved with that. Instead, what it does is creates a nice little human baby in there. Um, and that is the beginning of the life cycle of the gene stealer cult, because what comes out is just a normal human looking baby, but it does carry that gene stealer mutation in there. And then every generation, I think it's a 4-generation cycle. So in 4 generations, you will eventually get a full blown gene stealer again. And just the dedication that these people have towards the star gods, as they like to think, um, because they are, once they come out and they believe that, once they're actually impregnated with that mutant seed, they believe that the gene stealer gave them a gift and gave them information to believe that one day the star gods will come and save all the cult that exists. So not only do they um, believe that they're going to be saved, they also accept mutations like this, eventually, as normal society. So, and they are even so desperate to, or so zealot, that they hide this thing from the people that they're surrounded by. So they will, like the first generation, they look mostly human. The next generation, they get some of those ridge scales on the head, right? Some of the ridge scales on the head, and some of the purpling in their skin. And then, of course, the next generation is more like this, and some of them have 3 arms, and they still believe that the star gods are coming to save them. This is a blessing from their gods, and they're going to come. And eventually, after 4 generations, they've either collected a big enough community that actually sends out a psychic alert telling the star gods that they're coming, that the planet is ready for them, or they actually get one of these guys. They get a full blown gene stealer in their community. And even at that point, if they're lucky, the gene stealer just runs off and kills things. If they're unlucky, the gene stealer eats them. I mean, if generally speaking, it tries to avoid the cult as a general, in general, but they will just go out and kill things. And of course, if the Imperium, or let's say they're on an Imperial planet, if the Imperial finds the gene stealer, of course it will kill the gene stealer, and it will also flush out anything else that's in the area. Of course, that brings a lot of attention to the gene stealer cult. So, yeah. So, and super worst case scenario is if that psychic beacon goes out and the star gods decide to come, you run into my number 2 pick, which of course is the Tyranids. So we all know what the Tyranids are. We've talked about them before. We've seen them in Space Marine 2. We've seen them on the tabletop. Look, the Tyranids bring fear just by their hive fleets moving into a sector. You can see them from planet side. You can see the hive fleet swarm coming in. And even the strongest of people has run and hid or fled the planet to its own demise just to get away from the Tyranid doom, because everybody in this case, if they've ever heard a story of Tyranids, knows the terrors that come along with it. So of course, like in the picture here, there's all these tiny little bugs that of course start dive bombing the planet. They are just unending. I mean, because the scariest part about the Tyranids is when it really comes down to the fact of the Tyranids itself, even a dead Tyranid is still biomass for more Tyranids to be made. So they are literally an unending cycle of monsters that are just going to be creeping over the planet. And of course, there are so many different types of Tyranids and so many different ways to die from the Tyranids that it's incredibly scary. The locusts like life forms such as the Hormigants and the Termagants, and Ripper swarms, and they just run through and just eat and destroy everything in their path. To the big monstrous your carnifexes and trigons and biovores that just clean the planet, from of everything that it has, to literally the monstrous um, leaders of the Tyranids, like the Hive Tyrant, the and the Norn emissaries and assimilators and stuff like that. All these monsters coming across the planet is just absolutely decimating to the planet. And of course, they don't leave anything. It starts simple, and that in the case of the Gene Stealer cult, just one Gene Stealer on a planet can be detrimental to an entire hive city. Now, imagine swarms of Gene Stealers, swarms of Tyranid warriors, Hormigants, Termagants, Tervagons that are spawning more of these little creatures. Um, to the literal siege machines of the carnifexes and tyrannofexes. These are just it's fear incarnate in its most natural form. And to be honest with you, that is why Tyranids got my number 2 choice. So just to go over some of the ones that I did do already, we did have the Necrons were my number 8 choice, just being that quintessential zombie robot horror. The Chaos Space Marines, they of course are a little more human and that's what makes them scary or creepy. The Death Guard with their eviscerated flesh and bloated bodies and the guts spilling out, and of course they have with them, they bring almost literally zombies with them. Number 5 being the demons of the Immaterium, demons of chaos. 4 being the warriors and the technicians of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Your Gene Stealer cult, of course, at being at number 3, and then 2 being the Tyranids, and of course this year being one of the lictors, that being one of the scary, creepy, hide in the shadows, lurk on you while you're waiting. And of course those are Tyranids as well. So before I step into that last, and what became my choice for the creepiest, scariest of the factions in 40K, I did want to mention a couple honorable mentions. To me, I had a couple people mention them. I also consider them myself. If we're going to classic horror, of course, we have Space Wolves, who are literal, if not figuratively, werewolves. Their barbarianism and savagery on the battlefield, and of course, as Space Wolves get older, they get fuzzier and grow bigger canines and become more wolf-like than they are man. And though it's been 10,000 years and not one of them has turned into a full wolf, we do have Thunderwolf calves. So maybe, I don't think so, but just a silly joke. And then, of course, my other honorable mention in this one, and of course, we stayed in the Imperium for this, and that would be the Blood Angels, who are literally the vampires of the 40K universe. Because no horror is complete without vampires. They drink blood. They carry names like Blood Angels, Blood Drinkers, Flesh Terrors, so on and so forth. I mean, they are the closest thing that 40K has to actual vampires, and I think that they do require a spot on this list. They just didn't make the cut for the really scary part of it. And to me, to be honest with you, once a Blood Angel falls to the Black Rage, they are a lot closer to being on this list than probably could and maybe should rank higher than Necrons, if not a little bit higher, because the mental capacity that a Death Company Blood Angel has is terrible, because all they do is everybody they see looks like Horus killing their precious Jean's father, Sanguinius, and you don't really don't want that. So for me, and of course, again, this is solidly in my opinion, I think the scariest, creepiest faction in all of 40K, out of all of them, the one that I don't ever want to see ever if I was living in the Imperium of Man in this galaxy in the year 41,000, of course, is Dark Eldar. I guess the Killer Clowns should get an honorable mention. I kind of wanted to put them in there. They're just not creepy enough for me. They didn't quite make the cut. I do like the Harlequins. I do like that their entire battlefield gestures are part of the are all a show. So that does make them really creepy. But really, the Drakari really kind of stood out for me, because not only do they have, look, they're elves and they live forever, and on top of that, all they're looking for is pain to keep them going. For from the basic witches that will just come up and cut you to ribbons and then still try to drag you off screaming and crying into the night, to even when you look at the vehicles and the models of the vehicles, and they all have the chains with the hooks at the end that are specifically designed to drag people behind the vehicles or underneath the vehicles, back to the fighting arenas, to the scourges who look like fallen angels, even the homunculi and the incubi that feel like, really have that super creepy feeling of the Cenobites, almost from Hellraiser. These are the guys I don't really want to run into. These are the guys that scare the crap out of me. Even the Hellions on their Green Goblin boards, like, that's just not something that I want to run into in my life. I think these guys, just knowing that they're in the same sector as me, would probably make me running to somewhere else if I could. And then, the fact of the matter is, when it really comes down to it, and this is the super deciding factor of this whole thing, is their intentions are to not kill anybody. Their intentions are to take you back into the webway, into their evil Dark Eldar cities, and put you in the fighting pits, or literally put you on a coffee table to flay you just to make you scream, to ward off Slaanesh and save their souls from Slaanesh. And the literal high they get just from being that connected to that kind of pain for so long, they think it saves their soul from Slaanesh, and they're really okay with all that. And I think that's the worst part of all of it, is just the psychological terror and the literal just pain-induced agony that comes to anybody that crosses paths with them. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it myself. They take top billing on my count. They are everything that I don't want to be in the 41st millennia. They're everything that scares the crap out of me. So that's my list. again, I'll go over it one more time real quick, just in case anybody missed it and you're just tuning in. I did put Necrons on the bottom at number 8. And of course, that's because of those. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Um, those zombie robots. Jeff just mentioned here, don't forget about the organ and limb extraction for their own use. So they do, as part of the homunculize process, is they will perform organ transplants to from their victims to put into themselves so that they can live longer. So if they have a damaged spleen or a damaged lung or something like that, they will remove it and integrate it into their own body to make them stronger, to make them better, and also so that they have that constant pain receptor going on. So yeah, sorry about that. I did forget about that. And again, that's why the Dark Eldar scare the crap out of me, is because there's so much messed up stuff with them. I don't even know how to like get past it. And for such lithe little army, little models that they are, though, I mean, everybody gives them literal internet flack about the witches not wearing armor, and the Cabalite warriors, being so weak. And literally, I mean, they're described as a glass cannon on the battlefield. But just to realize that, there is no Dark Eldar army. There are Dark Eldar raiding forces. They're not there to take the whole planet. They're there to take what they need to go back to their cities and create pain. So again, what I was saying, Necrons, Chaos Space Marines, because they're the evil version of the good guys. They just get just enough creep factor because of, being evil. Death Guard and their zombies, the literal writhing masses of the Chaos Demons from the Warp. Admech, just the cybernetic replacement, not even the bad tissue, just any tissue, taking the tissue off and replacing it with machines because of the machine god. Then of course the Gene Stealer cults. I mean, just devastating their whole community just to hope that the Star Gods will take them away. And of course the Tyranids, who will not be taking them away, and they will just be feeding off of them, makes it even worse. And then of course, as I just mentioned, my top listing is the Drakari. So that's it. Let me know in the comments if I missed something as I post this video up. Anybody that has watched, that is watching now, or will be watching on YouTube in the future, I just kind of got around to updating Spotify. So there's 3 new episodes if you want to listen to this instead of watching it. It is up on Spotify now, which we did Thousand Suns, Chaos Space Marines, and Orcs. So if you want to check those out, those are there. And of course, the playlist for this video, it will be transferred into the podcast, so you can watch all the podcast episodes from when I started the podcast on YouTube up till now. It's all available there on YouTube. Just make sure to click the podcast link. All right. So this is Todd from Table Ready Podcast. If we're here to help you get your models and you table ready, I want to thank you for watching and come back next week. We'll see you then. Bye.